Welcome to another bonus edition of Upon Further Review.
Upon further review,
And in this edition, we'll be talking about the Miami Dolphins versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. You can catch this Week 8 matchup on October 26th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and that'll be aired on your local CBS affiliates. So here we have the 3-3 Dolphins versus the 1-6 Jacksonville Jaguars in the Battle of Miami. Well, the Battle of Florida. Usually I would say with Miami versus Tampa, it's the Battle of the Tamiami Trail. Of course, this is northern Florida versus southern Florida. And I'll tell you, if you're in Jacksonville, you think, oh, I'm in Florida now, and I'm so close to Miami. No, you're not really that close because you still got quite a ways to go. Florida is a big state, a lot bigger than you would think it is, especially when it comes from north to south. That is a long drive. I have been down there. I'll tell you, when I got to Jacksonville, I thought, oh, all right. I came all the way from up, in New England, went through New York City, Grand Central Station, all the way down 75. We went all the way down the coastline. And when I get to Jacksonville, I'm thinking, all right, we're pretty much home free now. We're in Florida. But we still had like another 12 hours of driving to do at that point, which was pretty crazy. Of course, part of that was because it was kind of zigzagging a little bit. It wasn't exactly a straight north to south. But anyway, this game right here, Miami and Jacksonville, the Jaguars just won their first game of the year. They did it earlier than they did last year. They were 0-8 before they won a game in 2013, and here in 2014. They won it after being 1-6, so definitely an improvement for Jacksonville. Slight improvement, but let's look at the Dolphins so far on this season. And the Dolphins won their first game. That was against the Patriots. It was in Miami. It was an impressive win. They won by 13 points. And then they went to Buffalo, and they got beat up on pretty bad. They lost by 19 to the Bills. Then they hosted the Chiefs, and the Chiefs picked up their first victory of the season there in Miami. They beat up on the Dolphins pretty bad. Then Miami went to Oakland, and they beat up on the Raiders just as bad as they'd been beaten up on the week before by their division rivals, the Chiefs, the Raiders' division rivals, because those are both two AFC West teams that the Dolphins faced in back-to-back weeks. Then they hosted the Packers, and they lost, a heartbreaker for Miami fans, is things just fell apart at the end, and they lost by 3 points. And then they went to Chicago, and they bounced back with the victory against the Bears, and that's what got them now to 300. So that was, an impressive win to go into Chicago and win. Of course, Chicago has not won one game this year at home, so the Bears, for whatever reason, can't win in Chicago, and Miami took advantage of that, and they beat up on them by 13 points, almost 2 touchdowns. And now they go to Jacksonville. And the Jaguars started off the season with 6 straight losses. In Week 1, they lost in Philadelphia. Week 2, they lost in Washington. Then they hosted the Colts. They got beat up bad by Indianapolis. Then they went to San Diego when they lost. Then they hosted Pittsburgh, and that was a close game that they almost pulled off the victory there against the Steelers. But they lost that one by 8 points. And then they went to Tennessee, and they almost beat the Titans. They lost that game by 2 points. But then they finally picked up their first victory of the season, an impressive 24-6 victory over Cleveland. A tough Cleveland, too. The Browns are a good team, and that was an impressive victory for Jacksonville. They got Denard Robinson involved, and their defense, which is very talented, was able to shut down the Browns and hold them to just 6 points. And I'll tell you, if they had picked up wins in Week 5 and 6, they'd be 3-4 right now instead of 1-6. And so it'd be a much more different kind of look people would be giving Jacksonville. Everybody likes to down on Jacksonville. No one respects Jacksonville. They just want to trash on them. Oh, they're the worst, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, it's easy to say a team that was 0-6, a team that's now 1-6. You can trash on them all day long if all you see is their record. If you actually never watched Jacksonville play. But if you actually watch Jacksonville play, then hey, those guys actually do have talent. Blake Bortles has a bright future ahead of them, and their defense is actually filled with really good players. It's just a matter of them being consistent, but they've got the talent. They just got to be consistent play after play, and they were consistent against Cleveland. They showed up every play, and they took them down, and they are now got some momentum, on their favor. Now that they beat Cleveland, they know that they can win games, and this league is very competitive. It's a league filled with parity. Any team can win any given Sunday. I know that's, something that's just like cliche, but it's true. And it's more true this season than it has ever been true at any other point in the NFL history. This is without a doubt the most competitive, season we have seen so far. Teams are more closely matched than they've ever been before. The level of play has risen. So even a team that's 1-6 is not a bad team. People want to trash on them all you want, and if you're uneducated and don't know about football, go for it. Go ahead and trash the Jacksonville Jaguars. Have at it. That's your perspective. That's your prerogative. But I'm going to tell you right now, somebody who actually watches the games and is in-depth studying the stats and looking into things in a further level, I actually do have some respect for these Jacksonville Jaguars. I respect the Dolphins too, don't get me wrong. I think they have a really good defense. They also have a great running game. Even without Noshawn Moreno, they are running the ball. And that is, two key things. If you got a good defense and a good running game, those are the cornerstones to winning a championship. So the Dolphins are not that far away from competing and actually potentially taking the AFC East. Of course, they still have to deal with the Patriots, and the Patriots are the class of the league and have been for a long, long time. And that doesn't just end on a whim like a lot of people want to believe or think, and everybody wants to bury the Patriots, but no, that ain't happening. You still got Tom Brady under center, and you still have Bill Belichick, but the Dolphins aren't that far off. That being said, though, I think Jacksonville wins this game. And a lot of it has to do with, if you look at last season, Jacksonville, once they actually won a game, they then went on a stretch where they won 4 out of 5. So they were actually, at one point during that stretch, they were the hottest team in the NFL. Granted, the competition during that stretch was not the top competition. They were going against, like Tennessee and Houston. And last year, those were a couple of teams that, people were getting victories off of at a regular basis. But they still, during that stretch when they won 4 out of 5, they were one of the hottest teams in the NFL. Of course, everybody can overlook that really easy. People seem to not remember. But that's the thing about Jacksonville now. They got that victory under their belt. You've seen them in the locker room afterwards. They believe. And as long as they believe that they can win this game, they can win this game. There is no reason why Jacksonville can't go out there and beat the Dolphins. Well, let's look inside the numbers between these two teams, and we look at the passing offense of the Dolphins. They are 22nd in passing yards per game in the NFL. The Jaguars are 27th, so pretty close there. But then we look at the passing defense. The Dolphins are number 3 in passing yards allowed. Jacksonville 30th. So the advantage clearly goes to Miami when it comes to the passing game. Then we look at the running offense. The Dolphins are number 4 in the NFL with running the ball in yards per game. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 29th. And when it comes to defense, the run defense of the Dolphins is 10th in the NFL in yards allowed, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are 14th. So although the Jacksonville Jaguars have a strength on run defense for their team, the advantage goes to the Dolphins in the running game. They're really good at running the ball, and they're good at stopping the run too. Then we look at the points for and against. The Dolphins are 11th in the NFL in points scored. The Jaguars are 32nd, dead last. The Dolphins are 15th in points allowed. Jacksonville 27th. Again, advantage Dolphins. So statistically and on paper, the clear advantage is with Miami. So, I mean, the Dolphins, by all means, should win this game. That's what it says on paper. But last week, paper said that the Browns should win. That's what the stats said. That's what the numbers said. But Jacksonville did it. Because, see, the thing is, the games aren't played on paper. They're not played in the numbers and the stats. They're played on the field. And that's how you win games. There's that human component that you cannot quantify that will get victories. I mean, we look and we see Blake Bortles only had 159 passing yards in that victory. The week before, he had 336 against Tennessee, and they lost. They only put up 14 points. So, you look at that, you would think, oh, which week would have been the victory? You would have thought it would have been week 6, just based off of the numbers. But no, they won in week 7 when he didn't even throw for 200 yards. And a huge factor in that was Denard Robinson, as they finally figured out a way to get Denard the ball. And already just off of that huge game he had last week, he's already taken over as the number 1 rusher in Jacksonville, as he leads the Jaguars now in rushing yards after that game. Before that game, it was Blake Bortles. So that's been a huge thing. If you don't have a running game, how are you going to really have success in this league? I mean, we'll just look at the Cowboys. Even though most of the league seems to be predicated on some kind of theory that passing the ball is what it's all about, and I know that that's a very popular thing. Everybody loves to see the pass, but really, traditionally, classically, throughout history, running the ball, defense, that's what wins games. That's what wins championships. Of course, that is actually the strengths of the Dolphins team, is their running game and their defense. So it's not going to be an easy one by any stretch of the imagination. And by all rights, I really am not stressed enough that Miami should win this game. They really should. There's almost no reason to think that Jacksonville will win, but I'm still going with Jacksonville. I just got a feeling. I already thought that Jacksonville would pick up their first victory this week. I didn't think they were going to beat Cleveland. I thought they would beat Miami. And a lot of that's to do with the fact that it's an in-state game. And when teams play in-state, it's always a much more competitive game, even regardless of their records. So even you throw the records out the window in this one, because it's two teams, in Florida playing each other. So either team could, come out and pick up the W. Jacksonville has that momentum. I just think that right now they're just so hot. Like I said, that momentum is carrying over. And I think that, Miami is a team that, if you look at their record so far this season, they kind of go back and forth. So we haven't seen Miami win 2 straight games yet. And I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, although it should happen if you look at the numbers and everything. Yes, I know that, by all means, the Dolphins should win this game. And I'm not trying to upset Dolphin fans by any stretch of the imagination. I just respect Jacksonville that much that I think that they can compete. Almost, there's very few teams that I would actually pick to beat Jacksonville this week, going to Jacksonville, and it just so happens it's the Dolphins. And like I said, it's in-state. That gives Jacksonville even more of an incentive, I would guess you would call it, towards winning this game, or it just puts them more on an even level playing field, like I said, because for whatever reason, when teams play each other from the same state, I don't know if it's just because they don't have to travel far or what, even though it's in Jacksonville, so it doesn't really factor in towards them. That would factor more towards Miami, but still, either way, it just is always more competitive. That's just how it is. Not always. Sometimes it could be a blowout, but, when we got another in-state games, this week, we have a couple of them, Buffalo, New York, and then the St. Louis and Kansas City, so we'll see how they all play out. We'll see how the in-state theory factors into these games, but and I'm not going to be shocked if Miami wins, but I'm taking Jacksonville. That's my pick, and I'm sticking to it. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Very interested to read your thoughts and opinions. And if you liked the show, if you enjoyed it, hit that like button to let me know you enjoyed it. How else would I know you enjoyed the show if you don't hit the like button? And if you want more of this content, make sure to subscribe as we bring you upon further reviews and recaps of each and every single game throughout the season, including the playoffs and the Super Bowl. We're also covering the MLB baseball playoffs. It's now down to just 2 teams, the World Series, so keep an eye out for those. And we also do our weekly show, The Wedge, where we do our quick picks, our Fortune Fantasy Football picks, and our weekly rewind of the week that was, as well as a Thursday night upon further review. So we try to get that show up no later than Thursday night. We got up a little late this week. Sorry about that. Try to get it up there earlier. Usually I'm trying to get it up there by Tuesday, Wednesday. Sometimes things happen, life happens. There's a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes that, it takes part in that. So, it's a lot more work than it appears. I know it looks like, oh, this is just so simple. All you're doing is talking and there's like a picture, whatever. But it's a little bit more complicated than that. It's not rocket science, but it is time consuming. So, sometimes things get behind schedule, but we make sure to get it up there one way or another. So it is greatly appreciated that you're listening. Very much so. I can't say thank you enough. And I hope you're having a good day and a great weekend and enjoy all of the sports.